Hi, hola, hola. Let me know if you can see me, guys. Send me a message. Send me a message or something so I will know that that you are watching this live stream. Say hi. I'm recording this live stream from my home in Querétaro, Mexico, still. So, and this time I have a very interesting story that I wanted to share with you guys. But first of all, let me know if you are here. Send me a message, send me something. If you are watching this live stream, please say hi. Okay, well, let's begin. This is a very interesting live stream for me because it's about a couple that I admire a lot. So, and I know that a lot of you that are watching my channel are also thinking of this. Like, what about if you can retire in Mexico? What about if you can travel all around Mexico or another country, Latin America, or just live in Mexico, in that place that you've always wanted to live? Well, we are going to talk about this today. A couple that actually did it. This couple sold everything and they just decided to live in Mexico. And not only that, to travel all around Mexico. It seems they want to visit every state in Mexico. So this is getting interesting. But it's even more interesting because they are retired, but they are very young too. So they are she is 37, I think she said. And he is 44 now, but they retired, I think, almost a year ago. So let's introduce. Okay, I have a few people here. Thank you very much. So let's introduce them. So, okay, let's see. Hi, hola, Georgian, David.
Hola.
¿Cómo están? How are
Muy
you?
bien.
Muy bien. Es un día muy bonito en Acapulco.
Sí, Acapulco. Interesting. We can talk about that Acapulco in a bit. Okay, well, let's say hi to a few people who is here. Ryan, hola, Ryan. Thank you very much for being here. Uh, Oh my God, Jill Robertson from La Paz, Mexico. Thank you very much for being here. Why you tripping? And Laura, thank you very much, guys. Okay, so let's begin. Georgia and David, how are you? How are you feeling now that you are um, enjoying your trips? That you are not working? That you are relaxed?
How do you think?
Exactly like that. I mean, life before was very stressful, and all the days kind of ran together. They were the same thing. You know, you got up and you went to work, you came home, you cooked dinner, you relaxed on the couch for a little bit, then you went to bed and did it all again. And now every day is different. We have different adventures. We drive to Pueblo Mágicos around. We go to pyramids and different archaeological zones, and every day is exciting and new.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. I think you've been in a lot of places more than me, and I've been in Mexico all my life. I'm from Mexico, so it must
We've,
be exciting.
we've heard that more than you think.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Guys, what I really want to know, why you decided to travel around Mexico, and what is your goal in Mexico?
Well, originally the plan was to travel the world. That was
Ah,
always the goal, was to retire early, travel the world. And then the pandemic happened. And during that time, we also lost our other little dog. And we decided to just pull the trigger early. And, Mexico is really easy to travel with her. So that's what we decided to do, is just hit Mexico and travel around for as long as she's around, at least.
Yeah,
mhm.
before COVID, we probably took 2 or 3 international trips a year, and we always left the dogs at home. My brother would take care of them. And then I realized that with COVID initially, you were going to need to have testing and you wouldn't be able to just hop from country to country. And so we thought about Mexico because we knew we could drive our vehicle. We both spoke a little bit of Spanish. And the entry requirements were fairly easy as far as getting residency. So we took a kind of exploration trip down where we spent 2 weeks in Tequisquiapan and 1 week in Querétaro. We rented a car so we could try driving. We stayed in the Airbnbs. We shopped at the local markets just to see how it would feel to try to live there.
And we loved it.
We absolutely loved it. So after that, we went home. We sold our house. We started selling all of our things. We sold one car, and we just started going.
Now we're here. It seems the way that you are telling it is like sounds very easy, but it was actually a whole process, right? We met for the first time in Querétaro when you were in Tequisquiapan. And I remember we went to a cantina, and you were telling us about your plans. And it sounded very exciting for us. So, and now after it's been a year now.
A little over.
Yeah. We met last April, or no, August. Last August. Mm-hmm. And then we actually crossed the border April 15th and have been driving around Mexico since.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, such an adventure. And actually, I have to say that with you, Georgia, I talk almost every week because you are my student, my Spanish
Thank
student.
goodness, because some of the places that we have visited and situations we've been in, we really needed our Spanish. Oh, yeah. I definitely think it's possible to move to Mexico without having a huge knowledge of Spanish, but you really have to have the basics. And especially if you're going to drive or you're going to go into smaller towns, you really need a decent knowledge of Spanish to have a good time, to take advantage of everything, and to feel comfortable and confident.
Or to solve problems
Yes.
if you ever find yourself in a problem, right? So can you say quickly, sorry?
I was going to say, you can't argue with the police on the side of the road for 15 minutes if you can't speak Spanish.
That is a good story that I would like you to tell the people who are here, because I think that is important when you want another important thing that I would like you to say the people that are here is that you are traveling all around Mexico, not by bus, not by plane, but you decided to bring your car, right?
We did.
So we are going to talk about that experience. But first, let me say hi to some people who are here. We have Mickey from California. Thank you. Gary, John, Hakuna Matangi. She's here in Querétaro, Mexico. And Eat Baila Travel. And David. So, and I have to say, Georgia and David, you also have a YouTube channel. Can you say what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Georgia and David Travel.
Easy. Georgia and David Travel.
We're not that creative.
So you're basically showing all your adventures in your YouTube channel. Yeah. Okay, excellent. So let's start from the beginning. So I really want to know, first of all, something that I admire very much is that you retired very early, like very young. So how old are you guys?
I'm 37, and I retired this past March. So when I was 37.
And I retired about this time last year, and I was 44. I'm 45 now.
Wow. And how can you tell us a little bit of your process? How did you do it? That's the question.
It was always a goal of mine to retire early. And I actually got into finance to try to kind of teach myself those concepts as well as to help others with it. So I was a financial advisor. So my job was to help people to retire. And obviously through that, I learned a lot of tips and techniques in being able to speed up that process. And I mean, the biggest one, obviously, is if you are in a couple, is to just live off of one person's income. It's, you know, when you first get together, it's pretty easy to do that because you're sharing rent, you're sharing an electric bill, you know, you're sharing a lot of expenses. So if from that very get-go you start saving, it makes it easier. And then of course, every time, you know, you get a raise or you start making more money or you get a bonus, to not spend it and to keep living on the amount that you're used to living on instead of letting your lifestyle inflate over time. So by the time we actually quit our jobs, we were only living on about 35% of our income. We were saving over 60% because of those factors.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. I remember you told me a little bit about that the first time I met you, about this movement that I didn't know anything about. So would you say you follow that the fire movement?
I was already starting to practice some of the principles before I found the fire movement because I just have always been cheap.
Frugal.
Okay. I always car in the parking lot. I always wore older clothes. I remember I'd worked at a company for 8 years, and the lady who had interviewed me for the job, she goes, "Did you wear that dress at the interview?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've had it for 8 years." I've always been that person. So it kind of came naturally to save money. Now, David is more of a spender. So it did not come naturally to David.
But you suffered, David.
It's definitely one of those things that you can learn. And I think the biggest thing is just to delay purchases too. If you see something that you want, don't buy it in that moment. Make yourself wait a week or a month. And then if you still really want it, then weigh whether it's worth it to you to delay your retirement or to not go on that vacation or whatever to have that item. Because a lot of times if you buy something in the moment, you may end up regretting it down the road. So just delaying that satisfaction, not telling yourself you can't have it, but that you need to wait to have it. A lot of times you'll find that you don't really want it after a week or two anyway.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's difficult to believe now that I am seeing all your trips, the places where you're staying, everything that you are doing, and it's cool. It's cool to meet a couple that have achieved that goal that a lot of us, or probably all of us, want to achieve, and more if you are young. So that's super cool. And guys, if you are here watching this video and have a lot of more questions about this topic, to Georgia and David, please drop them here and take advantage of this live stream, because they have a lot of knowledge about this topic. So it's cool to know more about this. So, but let's continue, because there's a lot of topics that I want to talk with you. And so okay, so you decided to come to Mexico, but of course, I suppose it wasn't so like as easy just to say, let's go to Mexico. So what were your concerns or fears about coming to Mexico?
I think some of the biggest, well, first off, the biggest reservation was, you know, how much would life cost here? You know, obviously,
and it's not as cheap as you think.
No, that is one thing I will say is that, you know, you kind of see everywhere that Mexico is a low cost of living destination. And having traveled through Asia and Europe and other parts, I would say it's a medium cost of living destination. Yes, it's absolutely less than the US, and it's absolutely less than Canada and some parts of Europe, but just some parts of Europe. There are other parts of Europe that are cheaper than Mexico. So that is one thing. And especially if you want to buy a lot of the imported brands, or you want to go to fancy restaurants, you know, you can definitely spend close to what you spend in the US if you don't watch the budget.
And some of those things cost even more.
Oh, a good example is for Thanksgiving, I wanted to try to make some of my normal recipes. So I went to a little specialty market and I picked up a couple cans of cranberry and a couple cans of just straight pumpkin. And in the US, if I bought all 4 of those cans, it would probably have been like $5 or $6. And it was almost $30 to buy it here. So
wow. Yeah.
if I wanted it, that's what I had to pay. It wasn't available in the local supermarkets. So it's if you want to hold on to a lot of your usual products, you will most likely be paying more because they're imported here.
Yeah, exactly. They're afforded here, so we don't tend to buy those products. So there are some benefits, advantages, but it's also you have to, um, how can I say this? Like you need to adapt yourself to the
Mm-hmm.
new way of living. So okay, so that was one when you realized that the cost of living wasn't as cheap as probably a lot of people say.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's where I'd say, like, if you're thinking of moving to Mexico, come down and do an exploration trip. We did two. We did one to Playa del Carmen for 2 weeks, and then we did that one into Keys and Querétaro for 3 weeks, just so we could get a better feel for how things would really be and how things would work. The other thing I was nervous about was, is my Spanish good enough to function? Can I get my point across? Can I make purchases? Can I handle situations? And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that, yes, my Spanish was sufficient to handle those things. Now, I can't always go into deep, detailed past tense stories, but I can ask for things and, understand the answers.
And argue with police officers.
Another concern was just like, we like going out to fancy meals. We like having kind of upscale experiences sometimes. And I didn't know how readily available that would be in Mexico. And I've been pleasantly surprised that pretty much every city we have stayed in has had a good selection of, upscale, lujoso restaurants. And also there's a nice mall in almost any larger city. And there's a Liverpool, even in some of the smaller cities, which is a really nice department store. So, things like international brands makeup and clothing in a wide variety of sizes and styles is readily available. So those kind of things just weren't the concern that I thought that they might be.
This is a good thing to talk about because we were talking about this yesterday, and I said, well, that obviously I'm living in Mexico. I'm from Mexico. That sounds obvious to me, but probably a lot of people don't think that this could be easy to get. So this is a good point for you to mention because you basically were trying different places to see if you two could live that way, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, because there is a certain amount in the U.S. where Mexico is kind of portrayed as beaches, desert, and not a whole lot else.
yeah.
So, I love tacos. I really do. I love some street tacos, but I wanted to make sure that there were going to be other options in there, or other options readily available. And like the mall in Hurricane is fancier than any mall that was near me in North Carolina. I could drive down to Charlotte, which is our biggest city, and the mall there wasn't as nice as the Antea Lifestyle Center.
Querétaro.
Yeah.
Yeah, this mall I have to say is very nice. I think, I would say it's one of the best of Mexico just because I'm living here.
I think it's probably one of the best in the world. We've been to malls in Dubai and in Hong Kong, and that mall is right up there. It is
Really?
really nice.
Oh, interesting. I knew that it was one of the larger of Latin America. So
Well,
wow.
the selection of brands and just how pleasant it is to walk around and how beautiful and upscale it is. It's something.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's read some comments. There are some questions for you guys. Let's see. Okay, Julio is saying, I am planning on doing early retirement too in San Juan del Rio, Querétaro. I plan on retiring early as well at 40. So there are people asking for your YouTube channel. I share it, and I think Kevin from Eat Baila Travel shared it as well. So I hope that you guys, well, I hope my audience start following you guys because it's very interesting what you are doing. Mickey is asking, can you share guys the tips and techniques to retire earlier? Could you say a few things?
The biggest rule, as far as to know if you're ready, is what's known as the 4% rule. So if you take how much money you have in savings and investments and you multiply it by 4%, and you could live on that amount annually then it is very unlikely that you would run out of money. As long as you're invested in some stocks and inflation doesn't get crazy, you should be fine for forever. The reverse of that is the rule of 25, which is if you take your annual expenses or how much you would like to spend annually in retirement and you multiply that by 25, that gives you the number that you theoretically need to have. And of course, if you just put it in the bank, you're not going to make a sufficient amount of interest to get there. You do have to do some investing. And obviously, the recommendation is to invest in larger US or global companies because they're safer. They're less likely to go out of business. And if you own a diversified portfolio of a few of them, then even if one of them does go under, you're still got another, basket of stocks that are doing just fine.
It's scary when you do the maths and you see, oh my God, is this what I need to save? Like, oh my God, I've done it.
And that's why spending less is important on two levels, because by spending less, you need a smaller number in the end. And then also you get to that number faster because you're saving more and you're spending less. So cutting your expenses is really the biggest part of it. You can try to increase your salary. You can try to invest better. But at the end of the day, if you're spending a lot of money, it's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
You got to stop keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good phrase. I learned that phrase when my mother-in-law was here. And so that is a new phrase that I understood now. Okay. So let's see if I have another more question. If not, let's continue. Somebody is asking, why you tripping? Is asking, how is it traveling with a dog?
It's great. We love it. It's real easy. And she seems to really love to travel. But she doesn't seem to really like other people so much. But, she's having a great time.
I think there are a couple of things that we do. One is that we try as much as we can to find an Airbnb that has green space for her. So that way she still has that little bit of outside time and she doesn't feel cooped up.
Which that can be kind of hard in Mexico.
It can be. So sometimes we run a little further out of town, a little bit further out in Centro than we'd want to, just so she can have that green space. Another thing is we take her out a few times a week to restaurants and bars. And that's one of the great things in Mexico is that most of the places that we take her to and we ask, they say it's okay. She has sat in restaurants under a no mascota sign before because nobody's really there. It's not a busy day. And they're like, yeah, it's fine because she's small. So we have found that Mexico has been very pet friendly and she's been able to go to beach clubs with us. She's even come into a museum or two. She's gone to archaeological zones.
Usually in a backpack.
We have a little backpack to put her in.
Oh,
so
wow.
she's been to pyramids. She's well traveled now. But I would say that Mexico is way easier to travel with her than it ever was in the United States because most places in the United States, unless it's a restaurant with a patio, she couldn't go.
And actually, a lot of the Airbnbs that we stayed in are not pet friendly. We just ask, and
we send a message ahead of time, and we tell the Airbnb host that she has stayed with us at all of our past stays, so they can see that review score is for her too. And we would appreciate it if they make an exception. And I think only one has said no. Every other time.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, we have to say that she is not big as well, so maybe the situation could be different if you had.
She's like 6 kilograms, so she's quite small, and she's like 14 years old, so she just lays around a lot.
13 years.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Well, let's make a few pause here just to mention this is a quick interruption just to say about my courses, my Spanish courses. A lot of people were asking me or are asking me in other videos about my courses because they don't find courses now. And the reason is because I closed my dates, but I will be open new dates for January. I will be announcing new courses, new promotions, and also a course where you don't need to stay there learning Spanish or having live classes, because I know that a lot of people, sometimes people are working, people have a life. So I'm designing a course where you'll basically have all the information, all the recorded videos, but also you'll have the opportunity to practice with my teachers or with me whenever you want on an app that we use. and it's kind of Instagram, TikTok, very easy. You can be showing me what you're cooking, and it's just another way of practicing. It's not live classes, but still, you'll realize that if you are like speaking what you want to say, you'll see that it's not as easy just to talk in another language, even though you know it in your mind, right, guys? The secret is to speak.
Yes.
So you know, because yeah, that happens. I think it's not just a few people. That happens to everybody. We need to practice, and that way we're going to learn. So I will be sending. I will be announcing it. I will be letting you know. But yes, I will be having more courses very soon. Um. Okay. And well, Georgia can say how are your classes with me?
I
How
like.
would you say?
I don't think we would have had as much success in Mexico. I think it would be a lot more stressful experience if I hadn't done the classes. I feel like I've come so far in a year, and I feel really comfortable talking to people now. I can strike up conversations with people, in a restaurant or in a store. Hey, how long have you owned the place? What's your favorite item? That kind of thing. And I feel very comfortable. Not only being able to articulate what I want to say, but also I feel confident that I will understand their response. That was the biggest thing for me in the beginning, was being nervous about, now I ask the question, but now if they give me an answer, do I understand the answer?
Yes, exactly. Like I think one of the most important part is to feel confident
Mhm.
when, because sometimes you probably understand, but you close yourself and because you're nervous, or I don't know, you're just in that situation and you don't, I don't know, you just need practice. Just need to feel confident and
You just have
comfortable
to, you have
as
to
well.
realize you're going to sound like an idiot. And that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, you do have to accept that to a certain extent.
That's accepted. Yeah, that is a good point as well, because a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people, I don't want to talk because what about if I say something wrong? Well,
You
it's
will.
for sure
Yeah,
not.
you're gonna.
And yeah, and as you said, you're going to talk maybe at the beginning like a baby, like a kid.
Mhm.
That's part of the process, right?
And one of the nice things in Mexico, though, is that everybody's been really patient with us. Nobody has made fun of us or laughed at us when
Yeah.
we mess up. They just, and sometimes don't even say anything. They just understand and they move on. And sometimes they'll nicely correct you and just say, oh, the word you were looking for was whatever, or, it's pronounced this way, or, but we've had really great interactions with people. I don't think either of us has had a single negative experience speaking Spanish with local people. Everyone has been super appreciated our effort in learning Spanish, and they've been very patient and friendly.
Yeah, that's another good point, because yeah, I think I would be the same. I don't need to laugh at you because I know, well, you're speaking, so that I know how difficult it is. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you feel like initially people might laugh at you or it might be uncomfortable, but it's not. Everybody here has been so warm and friendly that you just keep going. You just keep talking through the mistakes.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, that good advice, good tip. Okay, so let's continue. What about? Oh, do you want to say anything else about fears or concerns, or is it everything?
I think the other thing, for me at least, was food poisoning. I mean, you just hear about Moctezuma's revenge, and I didn't know how we would adjust to food here.
Mm.
I am very happy to say
No problems.
that we have not had problems. We've had COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, we caught COVID in Mexico.
But food-wise, we've eaten in mercados, we've eaten from street carts, we've gotten stuff from guys on the beach, and
No problem.
we haven't had problems. So that has been really nice. And I think this thing too, when you see the vendors prepared, or you see people in the mercado, you see a lot of times that they will put on a glove to take money, or you see how often they wash their hands. They're doing things cleanly. They're trying not to get you sick. I don't think it's something you have to be overly concerned of, but coming from the US,
we also look for vendors and stalls and stuff that have a lot of people lined up.
Yeah.
So you know that they're good.
Yeah.
That was definitely a concern for me before. And I still can't really speak to healthcare because we have been so healthy that neither of us has gone to the
Knock on
doctor.
wood.
Yeah, since
Oh,
we got here.
wow.
So I can't speak to how medical services are here. But it seems like there is a wide range, and that you can go see a doctor at the side of the pharmacy for a very cheap price. And then you can go to a very large, fancy hospital with fancy specialists if you want. Those exist here too. So I think that there is a wide range of healthcare available. I just haven't personally used it.
Yes, as you said, there are different prices. It depends on obviously if it's how hard your sickness is, if I had to say it that way. But it's easy. You're right. It's very easy. You just go to a pharmacy and pay probably 50 pesos, farmacia de Doctor Simi, and that's it.
I love that. I love the character. It's great.
Yeah, that is great. So let us know, guys, if you know who we're talking about here in the chat. Okay, so let's continue with the next question. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that you decided to sell everything. You sold your house, your belongings, and you decided to travel around Mexico by car. So that is a good topic because a lot of people, a lot of people are considering coming to Mexico, but they find it a very difficult thing to do. And a lot of people find even more difficult to come to Mexico by car. How has your experience been? Why by car?
Well, so far it's been great, aside from one little incident we'll talk about probably later. But during our first stay, when we rented a car in Tequiscalpan, it was a crappy little rental car. So we realized that to come to Mexico, we needed something that had like 4-wheel drive, that was more robust, that could actually haul the things that we want to take with us. So we got the Jeep Wrangler. And so, I mean, so far it's been great. It's been easy. Of course, the roads are a little bit different here in Mexico, which is why we got that Jeep.
And especially because now if you're going to just go to a city, like say you're just going to drive to Guadalajara and you're going to live in Guadalajara, then you probably don't need a Jeep. But
if you're doing what we're doing, then
part of our goal is to visit 100 pueblos mágicos, and pueblos mágicos are by definition smaller towns. And so a lot of times the roads are not kept up to the same standard. So when you're on the toll big highways, the roads are great. They're just like in the US. It's no different. But when you start getting into the little towns, it can be quite different. There are large topes, which are just very tall speed bumps. Some of them are marked, some of them are not. There are potholes, some of them big enough to eat a small car. And there can even be cows laying in the road. So you don't generally drive at night because there aren't streetlights and you might not see them as you come around a curve. So things like that are a little bit different. But especially when you're talking about driving between the larger cities and you're staying on the highways, it's just like driving in the US. There's really nothing to worry about. You have to have money because there are tolls, and that's about the biggest difference. But if you're going to go off the beaten path, I would recommend a more heavy duty vehicle. And you really have to be paying full attention. There's, in the US, you'll see people texting and driving and talking on their phone and eating in their car and putting on makeup while they drive. I would not do that here.
like we say, people are going to do what they need to do, and you need to pay attention because they're going to move out, going to cut out in front of you. They're going to, do a U-turn where they shouldn't do a U-turn,
or just park in the middle of the road.
People right in front of you, just park.
Yes, I want to go to a tienda. I'm gonna park here.
Oh, look, he's selling elotes.
I want to park here just to buy some elotes. That is another thing, right? David, I guess that was a culture shock for you because I suppose that doesn't happen in the States. So how do you feel now? How do you overcome that situation? Do you do the same?
I mean, it's normal now. Usually when people are parking in the middle of the road, it's usually to open a garage or something.
Something quick.
Something quick. So,
and I think this thing in the U.S., you're like a very high-strung. I can speak for this. He was a very high-strung driver in the U.S., and there would be some like frustration and a little road rage. Here, it's Mexico. This is how it goes, and people will cut you off and pull out in front of you, and no one honks. So if you have to do it, if you kind of miss your turn and you have to pull out in front of somebody else, they're not going to honk at you either.
Outside of Puebla, anyway.
Yeah, so the driving is different. Everybody does what they have to do, and everybody else just deals with it. And so it's a lot more relaxed if you can relax.
That is interesting because obviously I don't have the comparison between with the United States, but I would like to know your opinion when you travel in Mexico City, because I have some friends and they say, well, and I, even me myself, they say it's crazy, like it's everything fast, and they there you need to, they don't let you go past, so you need to like be
Mhm.
like very awake just to what to be able to continue.
It sounds like
So
Acapulco a little bit.
Yeah,
sorry,
here the driving has been
Acapulco.
here the driving's been a little bit more aggressive in Acapulco because there's just one main road around the whole bay.
Yeah.
So everybody's on this one road. So you do get a little bit more aggression in this area. But
And there's a lot of buses too.
we've driven about 9,000 miles since we crossed the border. So we've driven through a lot of Mexico. And I will say the northern part and the central part for the most was very more of a relaxed driving style. There was not a lot of honking. There was not a lot of road rage. Everybody just kind of did what they have to. And at most stops here, like if you're needing to merge in or whatever, they take turns. One car goes from straight, one car goes from the right, and back and forth. Where in the US, all the cars are just going straight and nobody's letting anybody in from the right. So it's more polite here in a lot of ways.
Oh wow, interesting. So okay, well, I have to ask this question because probably people will be wondering or are wondering about this. You said that you want to go to 100 pueblos mágicos in Mexico, or that you also want to be in every state in Mexico. So that means that you are basically driving all around Mexico. And what about those um, dangerous places well, what are those places that are marked as dangerous in the United States? What good are you scared? How is your approach
No,
with?
we've actually driven on what was that one highway where like U.S. nationals or U.S. Government officials are not allowed to drive on it. We drove on it like 6 times. It was fine.
It was between Celaya and Irapuato.
Yeah.
There's a little stretch of road there in Guanajuato that is,
off limits to government officials. But I mean, it was fine. Had no problems at all.
No, I think the biggest thing is that as a tourist, as a foreigner, my safety level is different than of someone who is selling or doing drugs or in the cartel. So, from a U.S. government perspective, the most dangerous places are the ones with the highest murder rates. But a lot of times that isn't actually dangerous to me personally. So like we were in Zacatecas. Zacatecas is on that like red list. We absolutely loved it. I felt super safe walking at night. On the flip side of that, we spent time in Puebla. Puebla is not on the red list. It is green. It is supposed to be very safe. I did not feel safe there though. And David was told by a local not to park his car on the side of the road. And in the middle of the day, we parked in front of a museum, and a cop actually stopped us and told us to move our car to paid parking because somebody would likely break into our vehicle.
Really?
And I felt that during the day. Like I walked back from a restaurant by myself. It was like 5:00 in the afternoon to our Airbnb. And I remember taking the keys and like putting them through my fingers as I was walking just because I wanted to feel more safe. And I've done that in DC and I've done that in, mall parking lots at night in the US. But it was the first time I had done that in Mexico. We'd already been in Mexico 5 months, and I had never felt that unsafe or worried as I did there in Puebla. So I imagine that in Puebla, there is a lot of small crimes that are not reported. So it looks safe from the outside, but there is trash everywhere. There's graffiti everywhere. And there were a lot of people that appeared to be mentally unstable, whether they were on drugs or alcohol or just mentally ill. There was a lot of that. And we haven't seen that in most places in Mexico. We see that a lot in the U.S. that you see like homeless, crazy people.
Oh, wow.
But Puebla was the first place we really saw that in any kind of quantity. We were not that comfortable there. So I've found, and right now we're in Acapulco, and I feel fairly safe here as well. I've seen people like leave their things on the beach to go into the water, and they don't worry about things getting stolen. Or in Playa del Carmen, people are always like hiding their stuff, and somebody's watching it, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that happens.
Also, there was a shooting where somebody passed away, not that far from where we're staying, but I feel like that would involve me. It wasn't a tourist. I think that was a targeted thing. So safety is kind of relative.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good thing. Well, before you telling me, because I would like to ask you about that, because you're saying it like there was a shooting right across our corner. It
Well,
was
I mean,
fine.
in Greensboro, North Carolina, I still get news feeds, that say someone was shot. It happens all the time there,
Yeah.
So, and there's
So
different
you're
places.
used.
I mean, it's just different places in the United States. Just like South Side of Chicago, you don't want to hang out there too much.
Yeah.
There are definitely areas around DC that are
Yeah.
super unsafe. So,
Great.
I
Yeah, I
think
think it's relative. I agree with you because it happens as well with Guanajuato. Well, of course, we know what is happening in Guanajuato with the cartel and narcos, but um every time I go to Guanajuato, the capital, the city, it's fine. I feel safe and nothing. I actually haven't seen anything in all my life that I've been living here. So I understand what you say is if things happen everywhere in the world. And here in Mexico, it has to do more with the cartel, with narcos, between them, right?
Mhm.
Of course small crimes exist, but that is luck, like that is happening everywhere too.
And I think this thing, I don't think we're as, tourists, or it's not made in the news where the areas of high small crime are, because I have a feeling that Pueblo would be included in that, being it was the only place we didn't feel safe. And then I've heard similar things about Guadalajara, that some people don't feel safe there, but both of those areas are considered safe because their
Yeah.
murder rates are low.
Yeah, it's true, that is true. So let me read a few comments here. Okay, Julio is saying definitely recommend a Melco for off-roading and visiting their cute Pueblo Mágico. There's a large Otomi population. Um, did you go to Melco?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we did.
Yeah, yes, they've been in America. They've been everywhere.
I think right now we're at like 59. I think our goal for the first year was our first goal was to get a family picture with our dog in front of 100 Pueblo signs, and I think right now we're at 59. So
Oh, wow. Okay. So what about what happened in Acapulco? So okay, you're in Acapulco. You decided to go to Acapulco. Acapulco is one of those places that I think the United States government says that is in the red list, right?
Mhm.
Level 4 red, don't go.
Yeah, I think even if you look at like international like murder rates, I think Acapulco is always in the top 5 or 10 cities in the whole world for highest murder rates.
Mhm.
So it is
Ah,
known to be unsafe.
What's the vibe then?
I personally feel very safe here, but we are staying in a place that is about 1.5 kilometers from the beach. So we're about like a kilometer from the main strip. And just a couple blocks away from us is an Oxxo, which is a very popular convenience store here in Mexico. And we had gone to the mall and we were driving back on Sunday. It was 3:00 in the afternoon. And we saw there were a bunch of police and some tape out in front of the Oxxo, and some people were taking pictures. And a man had been shot in front of the Oxxo. And we looked it up later, and the news said he had passed away. But the interesting thing was that the news also said that even though it was 3:00 in the afternoon, in a very busy area,
he was just found dead.
He was just found dead. No one saw anything, and he was shot. And he said that he died from a gunshot wound, but no one saw anything. So I think that kind of tells you that there is that side of things here.
Yeah, that is
And it
true.
happened 2 blocks from the beach. So it didn't happen in a bad neighborhood way away from the centro. Yeah, I mean, it happened right here.
Yeah, it's interesting that it well obviously that tells you a lot of things, and it's interesting that to see that it can happen even in the most popular part of Acapulco. So that things are happening there. But apart from that, hey, how do you feel with the people?
People are amazing.
Yeah, the people here are super friendly. And then another thing, this is a big difference. In Puebla, everybody had you never saw a nice car parked on the side of the street. They were always parked in, public parking garage areas or behind gates and here you see Mercedes parked on the side of the street. And like I said, people leave their belongings on the beach when they go in the water. So people seem to feel very safe with their things. I don't think that there is a lot of, small or medium crime here. I think it really is pretty well limited to the cartels, but it's not limited to a certain area. So that is something you have to think about.
Yeah, yeah. Would you go back again to Acapulco?
Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah, for sure. The food is good, the people are great. I mean, really, we've had some really great conversations with people. They've been very, very friendly. And I think part of that reason is probably because they don't see a lot of foreigners here and we speak Spanish. So they are excited to talk to us.
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool to hear. It's cool to hear that because I went to Acapulco when I was a child, and I remember it was full of lights, a lot of music. It was a place that you needed to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I bet, is it that way still?
Yes. Yeah, there's a ton of restaurants and bars. The only thing I would say is that, like, I would not recommend someone come here who does not speak Spanish because there is nothing in English. There's no menus. No one has tried to speak to us in English. It is everything is Spanish.
And we had one guy speak to us in English, but he was from Guadalajara.
Yeah. So that is one thing I would say is all of our waiters and anybody we've interacted with at stores or whatever, it is strictly Spanish.
Okay.
Well, it's one of those Spanish places I think we've been, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That is good to hear because if somebody wants to try to practice their Spanish and enjoy Mexico, go to Acapulco. Right.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's see a few comments. Hola Pamela, hola Kenneth. Elder says, I remember being in Culiacan and felt super safe. I went to the Chapel of Malverde. I went to a narco cemetery and they even showed me where the fields were. Had no problems. Wow. So interesting. Well, it's also, I'm not sure about the culture. The narco culture is like people who are living there. It seems to me that they feel even proud, like they are being taken care for by narcos. I don't know, and they probably, I don't know if that's why people feel safe. They are safe there, or and they are happy. I don't know, but that's just my theory. Okay, so what have you had any problems by driving in Mexico? You know, it's Mexico. You hear stories, and
Well, up until recently, we've been pulled over a few times. It's always been, a good interaction. Like, hey, we're from the United States, blah, blah, blah. They say, cool, great that you can speak a little Spanish. And we kind of go on our way. We even had a police officer who pulled us over like a while before, and he saw us again, and he beat his horn at us and waved at us.
Like, because he recognized us from before. So we've had really good interactions for the most part. Yeah. This thing I said, we drove over 9,000 miles here. So for the most part, everything has been good. And we do get pulled over more often because we're foreign plated. So they want to see that we have our TIP, our temporary importation permit.
Which they've only ever checked that twice.
And they usually just check for his driver's license. They check to see if we have residency or if we ever, they ask for FMM or a residency card. But it's always been pleasant, except for this one time. We were driving from Morelia to Taxco. And we were driving through, this happened in Mexico State, and it was the Guardia Nacional, it's the National Guard. We had just gone through a toll booth, and they pointed for us to pull to the side.
Which was normal.
Yeah, we didn't think anything of it. So that was the thing. I didn't record any of this.
Because that had happened before to you, so.
Yeah, many times. And it has always been just a quick check of the documents, where you're going, where you're coming from, that sort of thing, and have a good day. So when he asked to see our paperwork, he tried to say that the date that our tip was issued was the date that it expired. And he was telling us that our car was illegal. Yeah. So he called another officer up, and then that officer said, oh, this is a big problem, and we're going to have to tow your vehicle. And, you might be able to pay here and now, though, and you guys could be on your way. And I didn't even.
And they do this thing where, like, they kind of do this in the United States too. Sometimes we'll get one cop talking to one person, the other cop talking to the other person, trying to get you to mess up your story or something. But yeah, so they tried that as well.
And so he got the other cop up, and like I said, he was the one really trying to get the money out of us. And I refused to even ask how much. I just told him that no, that was the date it was issued, that we had gone to Aduana in Querétaro and we had gotten it extended.
He
And
said
then,
he said there's
And
no
obviously, you were speaking in Spanish.
yes,
This
all
happened
of
in
this was in
Spanish.
Spanish. There's not a word of English this whole time.
And then he said there's no aduana in Querétaro.
Yeah, which of
Yeah.
course I had been to the Aduana in Querétaro. So I actually pulled up David's phone at that time and I showed him the Aduana in Querétaro. And he's like, well, call them. And, you know, of course, when you call a Mexican government agency, you don't get anybody on the phone. So then that gave me the idea, though, was that I then told him, which this was a little bit of a exaggeration, but I told him that I was going to call my lawyer because my lawyer came with us to the Aduana to extend it. And I wanted to know why she had messed up the paperwork.
Ah,
And so I had David get the business card out of his wallet of the lady that had actually helped us with our residency. She wasn't actually a lawyer. She's just a facilitator. But I just wanted to kind of prove that I knew that the paperwork was right. And at that point, a third officer came up. And he just said, where are you guys from? Are you from the United States? I said, yes. He said, okay, pásale, go ahead. And I was like, ¿todo bien? He's like, pásale.
so what's your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Did they realize that they couldn't do anything?
I think that was the thing. I think at first I actually thought that maybe the guy was confused and he just didn't realize that that was the issue date and not the expiration date. Maybe he didn't see that many of that paper. But then when the second guy came up asking for money, I was like, oh, I know what this is.
Yeah, I know what you're
And
doing.
I knew that my paperwork was correct. I knew I had gone, you know, and handled it correctly. We actually made a video on our channel about how we extended our tip. So I knew it was all right. And I was like, what is this guy really going to tow? Because he kept saying over and over again that he was going to tow our vehicle. Is he really going to tow a vehicle that he has no legal right to tow? Like, he's going to get himself in trouble. So I just, it was kind of, we were at a standstill and it was kind of like, I will die on this hill. I was not going to give him money on the side of the road. I was not, because I feel like if you do that, then the next time they see a foreign plated vehicle, the next time they see foreigners driving, they're going to know it's easy money and they're just going to do it again and again. There's got to be a very high success rate for them to do this. And I was just not going to reward that behavior. I absolutely refused. And I thought that the chance of them towing the vehicle in reality was very slim. So I just argued with them for like 15 minutes, kept saying, no, this paperwork's right. No, that's the issue date. That's the date we went there.
But as soon as she said she was calling her lawyer, it was pass away.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's so, as you said, it must be happening almost all the time. And not only to foreigners, also to Mexican people who are, to Mexican people. And sometimes it's probably because sometimes, yes, we have something that is wrong, our license probably, and we just, or some people probably just, I just want to get rid of police people and I'm just going to give them money because they choose the easy way. But as you said, probably if you are driving around Mexico and you don't know, well, first of all, you don't speak Spanish, and then you see the police people here in front of you, like almost shouting at you. That must be scary. It's scary, right?
Yeah,
But
he tried that to get a little aggressive and to get a little
Really?
loud. Yeah, and I was like, this is no. I just kept
I
saying
don't
no.
believe
I was like, nope, this is right. This is the date that it was issued. Nope. I probably said no to that guy probably 50 times.
Great. Wow. It's in all how okay, so today is in 9 months that you've been traveling around Mexico. So it has happened once then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
I think the bad apples are rare, but I think you hear the stories a lot because, I mean, it's not very exciting to be like, I was pulled over by a cop today. He told me to have a nice day and to enjoy my barbacoa. Like, you're going to tell the bad story. And so I think that that's what you see. That's what gets shared. So it seems like it's more common than I think that it really is. And I have heard, and we'll see if this is true, but I've heard that the cops are the worst in Mexico State, which is where that happened. Here in Guerrero, which nothing has happened yet, knock on wood. And as well as in the Quintana Roo area and the Puerto Vallarta area, because there are more tourists and they're going to be in a hurry to get back and they're not going to speak Spanish. And it's going to be easier to kind of bully them into giving money.
Yeah, makes sense. So there's a few questions for you. Let's read them. Let's see. Georgia and David, have you traveled to Spain?
No.
I have.
You have?
I was in the Navy, so I've been to Spain.
So somebody is asking, Kenneth is asking, what's the difference in culture in Mexico compared to Spain?
Well, it was a long time ago, so I was back in the mid late '90s. And I wasn't there that long, so I really couldn't tell you the main
The
differences.
main difference.
Yeah.
And I think that question is when you would have a better um, overview if you live in that country, right?
You'd have to
Because
spend more time because I mean, we came to Mexico probably like 12 times before we actually decided to like live here.
Mhm.
yeah,
And I didn't even realize in all those trips that people at local restaurants will say provecho when they walk by. Like, I didn't experience that till I stayed 2 weeks in Tequisquiapan.
yeah,
And because if you're just in the touristy areas, they
That
don't
doesn't-
really say
doesn't
that
happen, yeah.
to you. So you don't
Yeah.
experience that. So a lot of the like more culture shock things that we've had, we've only experienced through living here. We didn't experience it in all the other trips we took here.
yeah, exactly. When you're living in the country, you start seeing different things, and some of them are interesting. So are things that you don't do in your home country. So what are those things? Can you mention some things apart from provecho? It's true that whenever we go to a restaurant, we say provecho at the beginning or at the end of our meal to people that we don't even know, to people that we haven't seen, right?
Yeah.
It's such a
And
friendly concept. I love it.
it's friendly, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's something that we have to do. Like, well, I have to do as a Mexican. So it's nice that you accept that tradition too.
Other things at restaurants are just like you kind of mostly seat yourself. You know, in the US, you stand at the front door till someone acknowledges you and tells you what table to sit at.
Yeah,
Even if you stand for a little while at the front of restaurants in Mexico, they'll just be like, wherever
Choose
you
a table,
want,
yeah.
pick a table. So you kind of seat yourself. And then also you have to
Yeah.
ask for your check.
Yeah, getting the check, you have to ask for it. And in the United States, they'll try to rush you off. Basically,
Yeah, you're still eating the last bites of your meal and the check appears on your table, you know, and it's like,
really.
let's get on so that way we can have a new
Oh my
table.
God. Is it because there are more people who want to go in, or?
Yeah, usually at a busier restaurant, you're going to have the check presented to you usually before the last person's finished eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's true here. We can spend as much time as we want, and nobody is going to tell us anything.
Yeah.
That is a good observation.
Is it considered rude a little bit to just like finish your meal, get the check, and leave?
Here, it's rude to give you the check. It's very rude. It's like, why are you bringing it to me? It's if I didn't ask for it. But for example, if there was a restaurant full of people, they I think they couldn't do that anyway. It's just that whenever you feel ready, and of course you won't stay there for 4 hours because you know that there are more people. But that's the only exception. If I believe that if the restaurant is almost empty, it's fine, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's interesting. What else? Do you have any other one?
Another one in the restaurant is the fact that they don't take your credit card. They bring the terminal to you at the table to pay. In the US, they take your card and then they bring it back to you.
It used to happen before a few years. You had to go to the back and pay your check. I guess it's because the machine became what's the word? Allowed. Oh,
Wi-Fi enabled.
sorry.
Wi-Fi enabled.
Yeah, probably that changed. Probably, and probably because a lot of people feel. Oh! Are you saying that you would go back, or you? Or
No, in the US, you put your
they
card
take-
in, they take it,
Yeah,
and then
that
they bring
happened
you the
here.
card back.
And
You never see the terminal. They take it away. They bring it back, and you leave the
sign
tip and you
leave
go.
the tip.
yeah, that used to happen here as well. But I guess people feel more comfortable if they are seeing what they are doing.
They do the same thing in Italy too.
Yeah, they did bring the terminal around.
And now that you're mentioning it, is weird, right? Do you feel safe that they take your card?
I've never really thought about the waiter stealing my credit card information when they took the card before.
No?
I'm just used to it in the US, you know?
So that has never happened then in the
I mean, we've
US.
had fraud on our card before. We've had fraud on our card since we've been here. So it just happens. We don't know when or where or how, but
Yeah.
Well, we know when it happened. I accidentally left the credit card at the Cinepolis.
yes.
That was my fault.
Okay. What about, let's see, let me see. Okay, very fast, una pregunta. Let's see who else is here. Well, it seems Julio and Kenneth have a lot of questions. Um, okay. Okay, so like, what is your favorite place that you've visited?
So I think there's differences in far as like our favorite place we visited that we would want to visit again, and then our favorite place we visited that we might want to live, because I think that makes a difference. So
Yeah.
like Zacatecas was definitely one of my favorite places that we visited. But it's a little too cold to live there, honestly. Like even we were there in July,
And you need a
and
jacket at night.
I had to change out of like a dress and put on jeans and a sweater to go to dinner at night because it's just too cold. So it was super beautiful, and the food was really good. But I wouldn't want to live there because it's a little too cold. But I definitely want to visit again. Tiquisquiapan is one of our favorite places. There are wineries everywhere. It is a very small town, but it is driving distance to San Juan del Rio, which has got more stores, as well as Querétaro and Juriquilla. So it's well located, but it has that very small town feel. And it has a very moderate climate that we really enjoy. And so
And
far,
the wine. You enjoy because
wine.
you have a lot of wine. That's the main reason, right?
very high on the list. And then as far as beach destinations, honestly, I like Acapulco better than I liked Cabo or Playa. Next, we're heading to Puerto Escondido and Huatulco, so we'll
how it
see.
goes.
We'll see. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, it's so interesting to hear your stories, and thank you very much for being here, Georgia and David. Do you want to say anything before we go?
No, I really appreciate you having us on here. And I definitely appreciate all the Spanish you taught me along the way. It's definitely made our journey easier.
I really enjoy the stories that you tell me, guys, when we have our Spanish lessons. So, well, thank you very much for being here. And guys that are here watching this video, this live stream, they have a YouTube channel. Again, it's Georgia and David Travel, right?
Yes.
If you want to follow them, we left their channel in the chat. So, and that's it. I think that's it. So thank you very much, Georgia, for being and David for being here.
Thank you for having
Thank
us,
you.
and thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you. Adios.
Adios.
Adios. Adios.